Good afternoon, everyone. Bwana asifiwe. Bwana asifiwe tena. Kwa majina naitwa Cecil Njuguna Karaoke. I was here last year with Dr. Jackie, and it's a great opportunity to be back here. I want to share my testimony with you. I know I shared it also briefly last time. Basically, I'm a 40-year-old man. Back in high school, I studied in one of the national schools. And that's the first time I encountered cigarettes. So we used to go for rugby events, and I was given a puff of cigarette and a sip of alcohol. So my dad also used to drink. So it became a habit of me stealing his cigarettes. If he drinks at home and maybe he leaves it on the table, I'll go finish it up for him. So it progressed that way. Once I went to campus, there was a new freedom now there. I went to one of the campuses in town here, but next to it it's called duty-free alcohol. So we used to leave class and go buy alcohol. It used to be, I think, 20, 30 shillings a bottle. But it quickly progressed. The thing with addiction, it is very progressive. It catches up with you in a very short period of time. And for me now, even I was doing economics, and it reached a point whereby I felt like masomo interfere na my drinking career. So I quit studies so that I can focus on the alcohol. And by that time now, I started being introduced by friends to marijuana. And the first time I smoked marijuana, my head was spinning, I was vomiting. It was a very bad feeling. But over the years, my dad tried to control. The families will always try to sort of tame you. So he got me a job. He was working with the government, he got me a job, and I could hardly last in that job because I got the first salary, and as soon as I got the salary, I disappeared for a week. Then when I was broke, I went back to work. So my dad was kind of the senior person, and there was a supervisor. So when I went back after the second week, and my supervisor was threatening to sack, ataenda kunisema, kunistaki, kamwambia aenda. Because I know he will go to my dad. And he already knows I wasn't there. So, but it's in like 3 months, ye mwenyewe ndiye alinifuta kazi. Kaniambia, so you go focus on the drinking. So, in a month's time, I started applying jobs. And while you're using this there's something we call grandiosity. Grandiosity is false pride. Alinifuta kazi, and I remember telling him, a month after I applied for jobs and I got a job. I got a job with a bank. Alafu vile I got the acceptance, nikampelekea nikamuuliza, hii ni wewe umenipatia? That is the grandiosity I'm talking about. Akaniambia tuone utaenda miezi ngapi. And in the the first month we were taken for training, second month, third month pesa yote ikakuja pamoja. Again, I took off. Banks don't joke. I was sacked immediately. I used to go dressed sharply in suits and all that. And in 3 months, I was back in the village. Now, nobody wanted to be associated with me. So I started drinking cheaper alcohol because there's no money. By that time, I didn't even look for jobs. So I started even selling my items one by one. The expensive suits, the shoes, the TVs, the radios, the music systems. I sold almost everything in the house. By that time, the fiance she took off also. When she saw things are becoming now really thick, she took off. So it was me, the cheap alcohol, some marijuana. And marijuana was because I couldn't even afford alcohol. And that time, a roll of marijuana is around 20 shillings. So I sold my items. I lost my mom. By that time, my mom there's somebody we call, anytime you see there's an addict in the family, there's somebody we call an enabler. An enabler unconsciously will finance or support the addict unknowingly. Ukishikwa na polisi, if you are the first person this addict calls, you're the enabler. Because anytime you see, like, if it's a man will always call the mother, the sister, but will never call the dad. And if it's a lady who's been arrested, she'll always call the dad. So I used to always call my mom, and she would drop everything and come and bail me out. There's a Christmas, they actually traveled up country. Mimi nikasema nitabaki. It was on 24th. So nikaachiwa pesa ya kukula Christmas nayo. So 24th, I went to drink. I was arrested. I called her. She sent a neighbor. I was bailed out on 25th asubuhi. Nikienda nyumbani, as I was walking home, the so-called friends, wakasema kuja tukupatie pole. And they know how to tell people pole. So they bought me alcohol. Ikaenda overboard, tena tukashikwa. I called her again. Nikatolewa 26th. 26th, nikasema hata sisimami mahali. I'm going home straight. Nikaitwa tena niambiwe pole. I was arrested. OCS mpaka asubuhi akasema huyu simwachilie. Land Rover zilipangwa hapo, nikaambiwa nizioshe zote ndio nitaenda nyumbani. Hata hataki pesa anymore. So for me, things really crumbled. I lost a lot of weight. My mom passed on, and that's when now things became, now my enabler has gone. And for me also, it's some grief I never went through. And there's a stage in grief and loss called depression. And alcohol is a depressant. It actually will depress you even more. And that's why you find that mtu akona stress, anaenda kukunywa, stress inakuwa times 2. You have somebody is so for me, I never grieved because I numbed that pain through alcohol. So my dad na yeye sasa ni mwanaume na mwanaume, hakuwa anacheka na mimi. And told me hautakunywa ukiwa kwangu. Enda huko kama wanaume wengine. So me ended up in the streets. So nikaanza mjengo, kazi za mjengo here and there. And the thing is, naenda hizi kazi za mjengo, and the guys in the neighborhood, they used to see me in suits. Wananiuliza, na zile suti zako ulipeleka wapi? At times they will even tell you, unajua Mungu anapatianga mtu bahati 3 na zako ni kama zimeisha. Because there's a time they used to call the one for the government, the one for the bank. And there's a time also my dad tried to send me to the Arab countries. We used to call them rehabilitation. Because in our neighborhood, ukionekana unakunywa sana, unawekwa kwa ndege, unaenda kwa Arabu. Stay there for 2 years, you come back rehabilitated. So he tried to do that. He got me a job. I went actually for the job. Somehow I wanted to go. Somehow I didn't want to go. Because I had that bond with the alcohol and the marijuana and that lifestyle. So he actually gave me around 40,000 shillings. He told me, this is pocket money. You go to the airport and ukaanza maisha. So for me, I went, kabla nifike town, there's something we say kutoa lock. Nikasema acha nipige moja ya mwisho, it will be a while before I get it again. Eh? So I had one in town. I took a matatu, went to the airport. I got there early, 2 hours earlier. So I was told, it's too early, just check in your luggage and have a seat. So as I'm seated there, I see, and I'm walking around, I see duty free. And I'm like, why don't I buy it's called a six pack? Because it's in Yamusho. So I took like one, and then the thing with addicts is we don't know how to stop. Once we start, we don't know how to stop. So I got another one. I don't know how many I got, because I remember being in town totally drunk. And I took a cab and went home. And I remember I knocked at the gate, and when my dad and my siblings saw me, my dad almost collapsed. Because by that time he was calling my aunts and saying, yes, alienda, ni Mungu, acha kakae huko. Then they see me drunk at the gate. So they had tried everything. I had manipulated them, because the thing with addicts, to sustain our lifestyle, we become expert manipulators. We lie through the teeth. We don't even blink. I will tell you, I'm going for an interview. Nani hiyo lock inanisumbua. And you will give me even that 500 shillings unknowingly. So I had destroyed all relationships. I remember it's one of my aunts who came and asked me, at my lowest, I've sold everything, nafanyanga kazi ya mjengo. I'm a very dirty guy by that time. She asked me if I would like to get help. And that's when I accepted. I said, I really need help. The thing with addicts, we want help, but we don't know how to say it. So we need to be able to, I always tell families, hate the disease, not the addict. So I went for treatment, what is commonly known as rehabilitation. I went for 3 months. Then my aunt said, haiwezi kuwa imetoka yote, acha kaya another 3 months. So, because again, I had a challenge. I didn't know what to go and do after that. And that's one key aspect of rehabilitation, having an exit plan. That once I'm out of here, this is what I'm going to do. So I stayed 6 months, I left. I was asked what I would like to do, and I said, I would like to be a psychologist, because whatever I've gone through in that rehabilitation, I feel this is what I would like to give back to the society outside there. So I went, did psychology, specialized in addiction. So I'm an addictions counselor. Actually, June this year, I will be celebrating my 12th anniversary, sober. Thank you. And I was sharing, and I was saying that if it wasn't for God, I don't think I would be sober today. Because I know one thing about my mom is she used to pray for me a lot. the day I stepped into rehab is the first time I honestly prayed and told God, I haven't prayed in like 5-6 years. The only prayer I used to have back then was when I'm having a serious hangover and I'm asking God, toa hii hangover, nitaachana na pombe. But for the first time when I entered rehab, that same day, I went on my knees and I prayed. And I told God, I've tried everything. I've tried everything. Just let this work. Because I didn't know anything else that could work. I had tried medicine. I had tried being prayed to. I'll say this, not in bad faith, but I remember I tried to get saved so that I can beat the addiction. I walked into church and I asked the pastor, pray for me. I want to beat this. But the thing with addiction, it is so strong that in the morning, I found myself drunk again. I went back to the same church. I got saved a total of 6 times. The 7th time, Pastor akaniambia, you're playing now with God. But I remember that day I prayed and I told God, let this work. I don't know how this will work out. I don't know after this, because I was in the streets. I don't know where I'm going to. But let this work. And every day I prayed. For those 180 days, I used to pray to God and ask him to just be with me. Show me what next, because I didn't know what next. So I left rehab. That's when I did the psychology, the addiction. I worked with different organizations. I got a wife. Right now I have 3 kids. And last year we opened a facility. Me and some friends, we put up a facility in Karen. It's called the Optimum Center for Specialized Treatment. And I'm the manager of the facility. So thank you. That's my story.
Thank you for that wonderful testimony. I think we will we'll keep some questions. I was going to say that maybe we ask questions now, but in case you have any question to ask our brother who has given a testimony, you can keep them until the end, because we might have other questions after Elder has presented. So let's give this time to Elder Mokaya to give us a presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sabbath. God is good. And all the time. Brother Njuguna, God is great. I'm very happy to have had what I have had. I'm very encouraged that you are making good progress and you are now helping others to come out of that problem. Now, I'm here to talk to you about drug awareness. I know that it has been a very busy month, every Monday. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Dr. Machera, for the speakers that have come and spoken to us. I had the privilege of listening to at least one of them. My wife and I have been up and about, going up country, going to the coast, and there have been situations where we have not been able to link in. Quite frankly, I wasn't even sure we would make it even today, because we just arrived last evening from the coast. But I remember that Jennifer Kibagendi Kengwe and Dr. Machera had waylaid me and said, well, can you be on a standby to talk to us on drugs? because we know that you know. And for you to help me, to be able to help you, I will just have to start by giving you a quiz to make sure that I'm addressing you, that you are the right people that I should address. So I'm going to give you a quiz, and any answer you give may be a pass or a fail. How many of you sitting and looking at me have used drugs? Put your hands down. How many of you have never used any drug at all? Oh, there's one here. Was there any other? Now, I saw one hand. So, since many of you, including me, have used drugs, people like me have not only used drugs, we have actually invented them and formulated them and did research on them and manufactured them, sold them, and even taught about them. Pharmacy is a very wide subject. It's a profession, as a matter of fact, is regulated by curricula. It has even a law that governs. My colleagues in the industry, unfortunately, some of them are responsible for making the drugs that cause harm. But I'm not going to talk too much for the few minutes that I have on the drugs that we've been talking about, those that affect the brain, affect the mood, affect the behavior, change your character from A to B. I'm going to talk about those drugs which we call medicines. There is a difference between a drug and a medicine. A medicine is actually a drug that has been embraced with other substances. They call them expedients, with the right, and put an item inside that we call an active ingredient, the one that actually is responsible to cause a change in behavior or in mood or a psychological effect of one kind or another, and is coated with so many other things we call expedients. Just like when you are making ugali, you will have water, and of course you then have muiko to make it, but you don't see the water when you are eating ugali, but there is water in there. So a medicine is usually meant for good. It's a formulation that has been tested on animals and then on people. A dosage has been found and an indication. In other words, the use has been found. Now, a drug, on the other hand, can also be, some of the drugs are not necessarily medicines, because heroin or cocaine, used properly, they could act as a medicine, by the way, don't get me wrong there. But the kind of drugs that we've been talking about the whole month are those that cause harm, those that really affect people in a negative way and blind us from what we are expected to do in the normal way. In the morning, we were discussing about Babylon, about confusion, and the way counterfeit religion, apostate religion has come in and adulterated the true one. We talked about that. The same happens in medicine, in drugs. So those of you who raised your hands, and even the one who raised the hand that they have never used drugs, but have you used a medicine? The one hand I saw. Have you ever used any medicine of any kind? You have? Medicine you have used? I can hardly hear you. Okay. Anyway, so let's narrow it down. I just want to to appreciate the efforts that have been made during the week, and the fact that we are all knowledgeable about that. But let us also not forget that we have our relatives, our parents at home, our friends who may be afflicted with the narcotic drugs, so to speak, the controlled drugs. They are called controlled drugs because at one time, during the time that the Ministry of Health was working properly, these drugs could hardly be found anywhere. They were under lock and key and could only be released under special circumstances. These days, they are found everywhere. So you may know of someone who is affected, and the knowledge we have received actually is very useful to us, because then we may be helping a brother or a sister or a relative of one kind or another. So I came up with some long in quotes, but I'm not going to go into all those details now. I'm going to start from the bottom. I will start from the bottom. I know I had asked my colleagues to give me slides, but I don't think the atmosphere is such that although you pass the examination, and therefore I'm addressing the right class, I do not think that we are going to have time to go into all of those details. It took me 4 years to do that course, and I don't pretend that I can be able to do it in a few minutes as I talk to you. So let me just tell you that drugs incorporate medicines. Medicines are actually drugs. They can be useful. The Lord has given us therapy. He has given us food to eat. He has given us the elements that make us who we are. The speaker in the morning talked about the earth from which we were made, composed of calcium and potassium and all those elements, because we were made from the earth. And if we are careful and we are in tune with God, of course, we will eliminate disease, or we will not have the disease coming to us sooner than later. But we know that we are living in a polluted world, and anything that you touch, anything that you see, even the air that we are breathing is already polluted. So much as you may really want to stick to the principles of good living and become vegetarian and vegan and so on, unfortunately, the reality of life is that there are bacteria, there are viruses all over the place. The atmosphere is all polluted, and we do succumb to ailment, to disease. And the Lord has also not left us blind, because he has given us the knowledge to come up with new things that can help us. I was trying to look in the Bible to see whether the name drug appears in the Bible. Has any of you seen the name drug in the Bible at all? I didn't see one. I have my NIV here. I didn't see it. But I looked at the word medicine, and I found that there is at least a verse that talks about medicine. And it says that laughter is what? Is good medicine. Does anybody know where that is found? Laughter is good medicine. Does anybody know? That is homework for you, because you are in a class. So the Bible does talk about medicine. So the Lord knows, the Lord knew that because we are living in a corrupted world, we will succumb to disease. Psalm 103 talks about praising God and proclaiming his name, because there are so many benefits he has given us. And one of the benefits is that he heals us from our diseases. That means he's aware that we do get sick. So when we get sick, he has given us the ability and the knowledge to come up with substances that he himself created, that man has come to discover, and put them in form of medicines. They help us when the incapable of sustaining good health, because we have to be in good health to be able to worship our Lord. And so I said I was going to start from the bottom and say, since all of us have know something about the medicines, I had a basket here. I think my wife probably didn't realize that I was carrying them. But where we were in the last few days, where we were attending some gathering of scientists on medicine and pharmaceuticals, they give us very many samples, so I collected them. Not that I was going to use them. I collected them yesterday and on Thursday. So I was hiding them at the back of the car, and my wife didn't see them because she has a kitamba at the back, and I hid them. But now she may be surprised to see that I have so many medicines that we collected. So I'm a working mini pharmacy. Many of these were collected in the gathering I've said. Now, a lot of us probably have similar pharmacies in our homes. Our children are exposed to them. And we are not trained to keep medicines. Some of these are supplements. Medicines come in all forms, you know. As I've said, it's a wide subject. You either have something in a solid form, like a tablet, or a chewable tablet like this one. Chewable tablets are sweet, and because they are sweet, they are very appetizing to the young children. That's why those who sell drugs to the children make sure that they put some sweetener around them, so that you take it and you feel, I'm eating a sweet here, but there is a substance inside that is making you become more and more addicted. We have ointments and creams and pastes, like this one, various sizes, various colors. You have something that comes in a solution, especially for young children, and they come in various sizes and in various containers. This one has what a seal, and it's made, there's a little picture here of a toddler. This seal is very significant to the mother, because if the mother buys it and the seal is not there, the advice is don't use it. A lot of us may have used a drug called paracetamol or Panadol. Looks very innocent, very popular, very widely used. You can buy it anywhere. It has a chemical name that is a very long name with structures and so on. It also has a generic name. Drugs have at least 3 names. My name is Stanley Member Mokaya. Mokaya is the corner name. Stanley is the baptismal name, baptismal in quotes. And then there's a middle name. Medicines, most of them also have 3 names. There's a name that the scientists know. There's a generic name that Dr. Monda and Dr. Rogena and many of you, Dr. Machera and others, prescribe. Then there is a trade name. A trade name is the manufacturer's name, like Panadol, the brand name, if you like. There are drops. There are pessaries. Pessaries are usually inserted not from the mouth, but the opposite of the mouth. So you know where that opposite is. They are inserted from there. Now, why am I saying all these things? we have all these medicines. Some of them may have been obtained through a prescription, but some of them, you or me, may have walked into a pharmacy and said, I'm having some headache, I think I need some headaches, or I need paracetamol, and you buy it, go use 2-3 tablets, rest are dumped in a wardrobe or in the store. Or the child is having runny nose, and one goes and tells a person, I need a cough syrup. So somebody writes something like this, a cough syrup. Go and use part of it using either this spoon, which is a measure of the quantity, or the smaller portion for a young child, and then the rest remain. And because it costs you money, you decide, well, maybe another child will have a cold tomorrow or a flu, let me keep it. So they leave it there in the kitchen or wherever. And then there will be others where perhaps one went and the drug dealer or the drug person wrote and put it in an envelope like this one, and they wrote 1 times 2 or 1 times 1 or 1 times 4. Things were put in there. Usually there will be capsules or could be tablets, because you can't put a liquid in here. You go home, you use it, and part of it remains. Either you destroy if you are a careful parent or a grandparent, or say, well, let me save it for a rainy day, and you leave it there. And so on, and so on, and so on. This one is like polysporin, may have been a skin condition. Somebody uses it, and so on and so forth. Toothpaste is also put in containers like this. Some of you buy Ovaltine or cocoa or what have you in sachets. Sachets is also another form of presenting medicines in powder form, and this happens to be salt, but the philosophy is the same. One uses it, maybe a child looks and realizes, that is the color of that substance that was tasting so nice, and one leaves it in there. And so on, and so on. So the purpose of bringing these ones here is to say that there are so many conditions out there that we suffer from because of the polluted nature of the environment in which we are living, and we therefore self-medicate ourselves. Self-medication, you try to take control of your own body by deciding what you want to go and buy, how much you want to pay for it. You fish around and look for the cheapest, somewhere in River Road, because Yaya chemist here is probably too expensive, not knowing that where you have gone to get it from, yes, it's cheap, but it has nothing but placebo, what the preacher was talking about in the morning, because it was obtained maybe in China. Someone went there with a suitcase and said, I want you to make me a drug called paracetamol, and I only want to pay you 2 shillings per tablet, or 10 shillings per whole packet. And the Chinese tells you, I'm using Chinese not in a derogatory way, but because they produce a lot of things, it could be anyone, and they produce you that substance. Unfortunately, a lot of them come from there anyway. The guy goes and they produce, and everything is looking like what you see here, but what is inside is totally different. So, the message that I wanted to give you on this aspect is that much as we want to take control of our health because of the conditions that we have suffered from in the past, we think we know, be careful. Be careful, because there are dangers of trying to take health on your own hands, on your own accord, if you are not trained, because you could make mistakes. Mistakes could come because it has become expired and you are not aware. because all of them have expiry date, a time after which that drug which was doing something actually ends up really harming you in a bad way. Or it may have decomposed because a solution like this one, which is a liquid, or it could have been even a solution, because it is there, obviously there is a chemical process taking place. And with the time, it will change color, it will change the chemical composition from something that could have helped you to alleviate a certain condition to actually a poison. So be careful of self-medication. Yes, it has advantages. You can do it instantly. You do it because you think you already know your condition. You avoid paying doctors' fees. You avoid queuing somewhere. You just walk into the nearest pharmacy and buy it, and they don't ask you a lot of questions. They just give you what you want. You don't know what dosage you are going to take. And some of the symptoms, the feelings that you feel, may be what you think it was, but actually it's something else is happening in your body. So seek medical advice, go seeing a healthcare professional, see those who have been trained to handle medicine. And if you happen to have medicines for children and you have to keep them, make sure they are in containers like these ones, which the child can never be able to open. The child-proof containers, because children, after seeing that you are having a polypharmacy in your house, it may be very easy for them to be tempted when they go to secondary school and university to think that since mom and dad were having those medicines, actually they are not bad after all, so I might as well continue having them, and the temptation starts there. These are some drops for a young kid, some drops, but I ever heard they try, they will never be able to open it, child-proof. I think the message is avoid polypharmacy unless you are very sure of what you are doing. Let me talk something about our aging parents out there. You know, a lot of us in this room probably have parents or uncles or aunties out there at home. They may be on more than one drug. Perhaps they are having hypertension, so there will be an antihypertensive drug like this one, or like this one, and a few others here. Some of them may be having high sugar, diabetes, and therefore they will be having another form of medication. Let's assume it's this one that they have to take maybe once or twice. Them usually have pain as well, maybe their bones, arthritis, and they'll be having either they are taking Panadol or paracetamol or some other product. Now, those parents, some of them can't read, some of them, their hearing is getting less, others are not able even to swallow properly. What do we do with these aging parents? Some of them could even be having dementia. Even some of them could be depressed. I made some recommendations as to what we should be thinking when it comes to medicines, is to try and make sure that we have a trained or a knowledgeable person back home who should be taking care of these parents to make sure that they are actually taking their medicines as prescribed, because a lot of them forget. They may forget to take it, or they may forget and take it so many times in one day. Oh, did I take it? Take. Then they say, oh, I don't think I've taken it today. Take. And they overdose themselves. So they can either overdose themselves or underdose themselves because their memory is failing them. So if you are able, besides giving them money, please make sure that those who are attending to them, the caregivers, understand and know the routines of giving these medicines to these aging parents back home or relatives that we are trying to support, because we cannot all stay at home at the same time. There is also the issue of, I came up with some things that we have to do right regarding drug safety. And my wife helped me in this one also, that ensure that your aging parent or relatives or the young child under your care or your grandchild is the right person for that drug. And for that, you will have to certainly to see a medical practitioner. Make sure that you buy the right drug for that condition, and that the time is right for that particular drug to be taken, and the dose is right, especially when it comes to infections. You know, we just finished COVID. COVID arose, and because there is respiratory infections, etc. If you underdose yourself or those dear to you, they could die, because obviously those bacteria will keep multiplying, or whatever they are, or even viruses. Make sure that you have the right route of administration. Some drugs are better taken as a cream, as an ointment on the surface. Others are better taken by swallowing. And not just swallowing alone. Are you swallowing in an empty stomach or after you have eaten food? Because medicines, like even the speaker said, they are actually foreign to our bodies. Our bodies were never created to take medicines, to be very frank. That's why they're called poisons. The chapter that regulates medicines in Kenya is called Pharmacy and Poisons Board. It's actually poisons. So all these things you see here, they're actually poisons. But we take them through the mouth, through the skin, through the anal system, through the mouth, through the eyes, through the ear, even under the tongue, etc., etc. If the route is not correct, the decomposition can come much faster and for the right duration. The danger here that I see is that people take medicines and they start feeling better, and because they feel better and they don't like the taste of the medicine, they discard it. If it's an antibiotic, of course, then you might get a second attack, which will not respond at all to that medicine, because you are calling what we call resistance. So it has to be taken for the correct period of time. And more importantly, storage. Medicines are better stored in pharmacies, in hospitals, in drugstores, and in the manufacturing facilities, not in our homes. If they are in our homes, they should be kept in airtight containers, not exposed to sunlight, away from moisture in the kitchen. You avoid the kitchen, because some of the expedients, the things that are added to support the medicine are hygroscopic. They will absorb the moisture in the atmosphere, and that can cause degradation of that particular medication. So if you must keep them, let them be kept away from children, away from light, away from heat, away from moisture, and they should be used as quickly as possible. And these days there are pharmacies everywhere. When I grew up, the nearest pharmacy to our home was in House and McGeorge in Kisumu, or House and McGeorge in Kericho. So if anybody needed a medicine, you have to ride a bus all day to Kisumu to look for that medicine. And of course, a lot of you realize what I'm saying. These days, they are virtually at every corner. So they are easily available. So you don't have the need to keep them. Because by keeping them, you are making them appear that it's actually good, something good to have. So when our children are going to school and their friends are having them, they remember, oh, granddad or father had this thing. So actually, and we were taking them, nothing seemed to have been going wrong. So something starts kidogo, and of course, then we have the dangers that we have been trying to advise ourselves all month against. So avoid it like plague if you can, but if you must, take those precautions. I want to feel that I have given very, very poor coverage to this topic because of the circumstances. It was very well structured, but because of the time, and the head elder actually told me that it's a visitation, I decided just to talk from the head, although I did have some notes, as I said, that I made, which would have given you a much more depth inside to actually want, for those of you who are still young enough, to do a course in pharmacy and get something that actually interacts, that brings a change. Because a drug is something, a substance that when ingested or inhaled has a positive or a negative change in somebody's body. Most times we want to look at them that they will alleviate disease and treat a condition, a medical condition. And I wish you a drug-free environment. If you look at the John 3, the third letter of John, chapter 1, verse 2, it talks about, dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. So God wants us to have good health. He did not create us to be sick, but we do get sick. Science, of which God is the best, which we have to recognize, is there to help us alleviate some of those conditions. And let me say this, when you go to see a doctor, how many times do you pray that, please God, help me to find a good doctor? Help me when I go to see this doctor, I may explain to him or her how I really feel, so that as I'm explaining, he or she may give me the best treatment, the best procedure. How many of us do that? Or do we just go to our friends? Take time to pray that the Lord may lead you even to a more expensive specialist who will help you with the help of God to alleviate your condition. And once that condition has been detected, diagnosed, how many of us then pray that, Lord, help that individual who is writing down to write the medicine for you? Because there are so many medicines out there. They're counterfeits. No, business of medicine is in millions of shillings. In Kenya here, we are talking of $70 billion, Kenya alone. That's big money. And a lot of it, but because of money, people greed and corruption, it is there. The Babylon we were talking about. So as you pray that God also leads you to the right medicine and also even to the right pharmacy. Don't go to the cheapest one because cheap may be expensive. You may actually be wasting your money. We take a lot of supplements. I have, this is a supplement called zinc here. This is another one, calcium. This is vitamin C, chewable tablets. If you leave this with a child, they will chew all of them because they are sweet. but it could be an overdose, and the child may end up having, the cup is open, you know, you may find half of the bottle has been eaten by just a little child. And so on and so on. God did not intend that we would be taking medicines to rectify deficiencies that have come as a result of sin. But he has also given us knowledge. Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." The knowledge may be that we have not discovered everything that is there. We have not appreciated the beauty of the new start. You know, the new start we talk and we emphasize. We have not exploited it to the maximum. But I encourage you to embrace the principles of the new start, the nutrition, the exercise, the water, the sunshine, the temperance in everything that we do, adequate air, rest, and of course the trust in God. Take control of your health. Do regular medical checkups. This one here is something that you may wish to invest in. You don't need a prescription to get this one, but get a health professional to train you how to do simple blood pressure measuring, especially for wazes and mamas here. Don't wait to discover after many years that you have been living with high blood pressure and yet you are feeling very well. There are simple gadgets here that can help you discover so that you can quickly rush to a doctor and you get appropriate recommendations. If exercise and diet have failed to restore or to get rid of that one. Hypertension, by the way, can easily be controlled by lifestyle changes, food, exercise, and all the new start principles. And as we age, our metabolic rates change, etc., and it may be also useful for all of us. But don't overdo it, don't be doing it several times a day, you know, because you might do it in such a way that as you are doing it, actually you are increasing your blood pressure. Talk to your medical personnel and see whether you need to invest in this one. Because you may get readings which actually make you get what you are trying to avoid. I think we had this in the morning. Someone is diagnosed with cancer. They would have probably lived for 10 years without knowing they had it. But now that they know it, they go and die within a few months. I hope that what I'm saying here doesn't cause you to do that. Now, this is another gadget. It's very simple. Some of you may know what it is. It's basically a gadget that can tell you how much sugar you have. My wife is a witness. We have a caregiver at home. So I carry this thing. I've not always had it, but I had a friend of mine from Minnesota come to visit us, and he was staying with us. And he went around. He has, when he eats, he wants to monitor his sugar. He's not diabetic, but he wants to monitor his sugar. So he had half of the gadget, but he had run out of strips. So we went all over Nairobi, looked for what he was looking for, and we couldn't find it. He was told finally to buy a new one, which he decided he wasn't going to buy, because when he goes to the States, it's not going to help him. But then that gave me an idea. Now my friend has been running around all over. Why don't I also invest? So I bought this thing. So occasionally, after one has feasted and eaten a lot of sweet things, you want to see what your sugar level is. So one time when we took it home, and I was saying, oh, well, I'll do it on my mom. And so I did, and her blood sugar was okay. So the guy who does milking for mom said, even me, nataka hiyo. So I said, no, but you are a young man. He said, no, you do it. So I did it on him, and it was okay, and he was very happy. So the caregiver says, even me, you will do it on me. And did you know, the poor lady, she's not even over 40 yet, but the sugars, I don't want to mention the numbers, but there are several times the normal number. The normal should be around 6 there, 6, 7 there, but it was a multiple of that number.
Sorry, you wanted to talk to me, but I was
It was
intensely
over
listening
30,
to the preacher, and
20, 30.
it was a health Sabbath. So mambo ya afya ilikuwa inaongewa, hata saa hii inaongewa, lakini tunatoka. Niambie.
That is a very, very, very emergency case. And that was someone looking after our mom at home. Immediately we told her to go to the clinic where it was confirmed. And she's so some of these gadgets, some of wazes and mamas here, invest on them, see your doctor, let them recommend a good one. And as I say, don't overdo it, because it can cause you a lot of unnecessary stress. Madam Jennifer, Jane, have I used my time? You know, what I prepared at about several pages, but very useful information. But let me just stop there and leave you with the idea that God, our Creator, has given us the elements of good health. Let us trust Him. Let us do everything we can to live a healthy life, because that way we'll be able to serve Him better. I did pharmacy. I do these things there. To me, they look quite okay to do. So, Marisa.
Thank you.
And now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Elder, for such a wonderful presentation. I don't know why he kept asking me, not even for today, for many days, what will you want me to present on? And already was prepared. Even today, you already had a bag. I didn't know what it was for, but I think it was the right person for this afternoon, and I think you will agree to that. He has given us a very important topic, which most of us never think about. You know, we think it's so obvious that we know it, but it's very important. And I have to confess, I have to admit, in my own house, between me and my husband, who is here this afternoon, I'm sure he doesn't mind if I say this. You know, when you talk about cost, I know near where we live, there's a pharmacy which is very expensive. I can call it expensive. And then we had our grandson coming to our house, and he had a temperature fever. So I went there. I wanted to buy paracetamol for children. I don't know, we were together or no, I may not remember. So I somehow informed him that this paracetamol, I'm buying it at this amount. And then he said, you know what, that paracetamol, there's another shop near where we live. You can buy it at half the price. And sure, indeed, we went and picked it at half the price. So I don't know, Elder, how do we assess now? Obviously, we are living in difficult times where should we just have to go to the pharmacy all the time? So all I'm saying, what has been presented this afternoon is indeed good, especially where we have to know about our health. Now, I don't want to take much time. I just want to give a few minutes to anyone who wants to ask a question, either to our brother Njuguna or elder. So just raise up your hand or just come and ask. Yes. Sister Laura, do you have a role in mind, please?
Thank you, Sister Jane. I don't have a question, but I saw some of Daktari's notes when he was presenting. I just wanted to add something that he didn't say that I know he had. Many a times we go to the pharmacy and we are given prescription, especially as they said for the elderly at home, moja mara tatu, whatever. It is so important. Insist that the medicine, the name is written on that container. If possible, and you're given a full container, ask your pharmacist to leave the insert, the leaflet inside, so you can read for yourself. It's your right to know what you're taking and how it can interact with something else. And always know the names of the medications you're taking so that when you see your doctor, even if you think the condition is different, let your doctor know what you're taking so that you don't get the same thing with a different name or you get something that can interact with your medicine. I just wanted to add those points that Dr. missed from his notes.
Thank you for the presentation from both of you. I also just want to ask about the medications, those medicines, because you go to some pharmacy, unaambiwa this is original, it is 2,000-3,000. Another one is 1,000 or 800 is from India, from Egypt. What do we do now when it comes like that? And you really want to be well. So it becomes a problem. Maybe, I don't know what you can advise us as the pharmacist, what we should do, and we are so sick sometimes. Thank you.
Elder, you mentioned something about supplements. And I wanted to ask or say something, I don't know how you can label it. When my father became sick, we went to see Dr. Amayo. After we have gone round and nobody could tell what was wrong with the mzee. The mzee had salt, which was too low, and some other chemicals, as we were told by our presenter in the morning. So after he had done, in fact, he did like a thesis. He just studied the mzee. Then finally, after about a week, he asked, how many supplements, does your dad use supplements? And my dad used a lot of supplements. When I go to visit him, we were told this one cures this, and then there were a lot of cures. We were very happy. Then our sister goes, our brother goes. Very many of them. Then he also asked, so he went with that one. Then he asked, does your dad take a lot of sleeping pills? Kuna kitu unakula unalala. Sasa ingine unatafuta usingizi na ikuji. So you get something na unalala vizuri sana and you are very happy. So my dad used those two things. And in conclusion, he was not able to help him. I think the complications went, and I don't know whether you can say something about these supplements and probably sleeping pills, which we used to.
Just don't know whether we should, you want to answer them, then we give a few more instead of. Yeah.
Okay. Acoustics actually in this place is very poor. If you sit where I am, there are some things we are saying you can hardly hear. Are we online so that I go there that they see me? Okay. But there is already a microphone there. Okay. Sister Josephine, you know, a generic is a drug or a product that has come after the patent has expired. The person who makes a generic product waits until the patency is finished, so his costs are much less. So being generic does not necessarily mean that it is bad. If your budget allows you to have a generic product as opposed to the branded one, please go ahead and buy the generic. But if your budget can allow, always good to stick to the brand. The brand is the originator, is the one who has done all the clinical trials, all the safety and everything precautions, including stability, storage conditions, and the expedients, the things that are put to present the drug to you. A generic manufacturer, and here there could be some of them maybe listening to me now, their costs are less, but their products can also be very, very, very effective and good. There are good generics, and there are bad generics, and there are counterfeit, which are presented as generics, but they are actually nothing but maybe powder, the kind of thing that the pastor was talking about or the evangelist was talking about. So if your budget allows, stick to the original as a backup material to support the product in case something goes wrong, including adverse drug reactions. Good generic manufacturers, the generic manufacturers we have in this country are regulated, they are ethical, they stick to the standards. Those products are good too, but they have not involved themselves in a lot of research and development, and therefore they are able to produce their products very, very cheaply. That's why you will find there is quite a big difference in pricing, but their quality is also good. If it is a condition that is a life and death situation, I would prefer that you still stick to the brand name, even if you have to do an Arambe. Say if it's a life-threatening infectious condition where you do not have a second chance, it's better then to rely on where there is more substantive dependency rather than some of the generics which may not be good. But I leave the decision to you. Now, regarding my fellow PK, you know, God did not create us to go to sleep as a result of assistance. In other words, taking a sleeping pill. Sleeping pills are chemicals, of course, which are made to affect the mind, and they just work maybe in the same way, in the same direction, say same fashion as say alcohol in a way, because they are affecting the mind. It's like anesthesia which you get when someone is trying to do a procedure on you and they don't want you to feel pain. The best thing to encourage sleep is do exercise, change scenery, go and walk around. If you can do without sleeping pills, so much the better. And talking about sleeping pills, some people have constipation and they take laxatives so that they can go to the poo. Please avoid those things unless it's a medical emergency whereby someone has not gone to the jaw for maybe a month and they are walking pit latrine. Then there you may need to assist that person by forcing whatever. But drink a lot of water, do exercise, relax, and don't take laxatives because they will weaken your sphincter muscles and you may have to depend on them And in the long run, as the years clock by, you may not be able even to empty your bowels. So drugs of addiction, including sleeping pills, are really better avoided from our cabinet, unless, of course, the doctor, under special circumstances, it is felt that you need it so as to achieve a certain objective under limited duration of action. But every case is different. Every person is different. Some people sleep 8 hours. Some people sleep 4 hours, and that's enough, and they can be able to be functional. But be in charge of your own self. You are the best doctor to yourself. You know your body much more than the person you go and see for 5-10 minutes. And he is very busy to dismiss you with a piece of paper to rush to the pharmacy or to go to the lab to do whatever test they want, and leave a lot of money in the hospital or in the institution where you are. I don't know whether I have answered your question well. So I can't hear well when you ask questions. When I'm here, I may have to move. So because of the echo, or maybe my hearing needs attention, but I think it's the echo also. Yes, sister, you had a query?
Pronouncing supplement, S-U-P-P-L, supplement.
You know, like the word supplement is supplements diet. Most of us, quite frankly, may not require supplements. If you eat a balanced diet, you may not need supplements. But unfortunately, some of us are deficient of certain minerals, and therefore we require to take supplements. So supplements are, as the word says, they are just supplements. They supplement the diet. We cannot rely on them alone. They can help, but they are not, there's nothing wrong with them so long as they are from a reputable manufacturer. Because a lot of them is a lot of waste of money. They don't have anything inside there. It's just a name you are seeing. So they are not formulated well. They are taken and they do not release the substance that is meant to help you, if it is calcium or potassium or iron or vitamin D or vitamin C or zinc or selenium or copper. All those are formulated jointly, like Centrium, which are so many of them in one tablet, or individually to supplement the deficiency that arises after someone goes for a medical examination. They do electrolytes and they realize that the sodium or calcium is low, and someone says, okay, here is some calcium supplements, go and take them. They are supposed to be taken for a short time, but we are all learned here. Go into the internet, if you may, and look at the foods that contain that element that you want to supplement upon, especially plant-based. You may need to eat more cabbage, more of this, more vitamin oranges, so that you get those things more naturally. Because God created all these chemicals and put them in plants. So if you eat the right amount, the body will extract them in a much better way than it extracts them from the supplements. The supplements are already embedded in a foreign environment. Maybe you have calcium and it's a big capsule like this one, and it has all this coating. By the time the intestine breaks all this coating to remove that calcium, maybe already that capsule is on its way to the rectum or already going down. Whereas if that calcium was being obtained from fruits or vegetables, the body knows how to remove it. So, simple question to your answer, supplements are okay, so long as they are needed in the body and supplied by reputable manufacturers. Otherwise, a whole lot of them is basically a whole waste of money. Unfortunately, you are not able to know, but if you have reliable drug suppliers, go to them. Don't rely on the ones, the street peddlers, who are selling them cheap and cheating you and taking your money away. So the old people, unfortunately, because of the absorption, as we age, the ability for the intestines, our alimentary system, to absorb some of these minerals dwindles. Those pores where the food goes through gets clogged up. And therefore, most old people are deficient of all these things, maybe calcium for the bones and so on. So that's why supplements will be required. So in those cases, they will be required, but seek medical advice. And if they're indeed required, look for a good one. Take them, do a test afterwards. If the levels have come up, maintain or stop, but rely more on natural sources of those. Because everything in a supplement is already available out there in a food substance. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
PK, did I address your question?
Yeah, I think because of time, I'm just going to see the hands of those who want to ask questions, and just ask one question, then we'll stop there. You may wonder why we keep moving. It's not held alone. When we were behind there, we were not getting anything. So we have, how many hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Anyone? That is it? 6? Yeah. So just make it short and let it be one question. 7. Let it be very short. I think we only have 10 minutes. Can we finish those 7 questions in 10 minutes, please? So who is the... Okay. I think our brother knows who was next. So we have 7 questions.
Thank you. My question is on the rehab. There's something talked about, and I thought that there was a gap. This thing of the exit plan. And I was just asking whether you have an association as rehab centers to do a follow-up on people who have come there, because I've realized some people go to rehab and they go back times 1, 2, 3. So do you make sure that at least there's an association that makes sure there's an exit plan, people are followed up to know the success rate? And I think now there's a need also to have that place to do follow-up for exit plan for the people who have come from the rehabs.
The question once again.
Because of where he is, he couldn't hear the question.
So come.
Okay, I was asking concerning the rehabilitation, that when he talked about the exit plan, I realized that we have a gap in that I've noticed that people go to rehab times 1, 2, 3, and it's not working. Some go even the 4th time. So I was asking, is there an association in the rehabs that when people leave, you can measure the success rate and see what is happening to ensure that if I've been there, I don't go back again?
Ask you a second for him. Yeah, for him. This is also for you. Okay. This week we have been learning that when you're addicted, you don't recover. That's what we were told. That's what I was told. I heard that once you're addicted, you cannot recover. You can only control the addiction. Now, by the grace of God, from what I've listened to you, you've sort of recovered. Now, I just wanted to ask you a personal question. According to you, are you back to normal, or you are still struggling with this?
Let me answer the two questions first. First one is, let me start with, do we recover? I remember we were having lunch at the back, and I was speaking to Elder, and I was telling him, we call ourselves recovering, like for me personally, I call myself a recovering alcoholic or a recovering addict. Why that is so is because, and I was sharing with him, I was telling him, I'm just one drink away, one puff away from going back. Even I tell the clients at the center, it's so easy for me to walk out of that gate and go home and come back in the morning as a patient. So that keeps reminding us that we take one day at a time. Every day that ends and I'm sober, I always pray in the evening and I tell God, thank you for another sober day. And that's how we've done weeks, months, years, taking it one day at a time. Second question is about the exit plan. I've taken through around maybe 200 clients physically, dealt with one-on-one patients, my patients one-on-one, like 200 of them. And I would never release a client from the center without an exit plan. And this has to be formulated it has to be teamwork. The family, the client, and also the counselor. They sit down together and the client tells us, or the patient tells us, or the addict tells us what he intends to do once they are discharged. And we sit down together and the family also agrees and we decide this is the way forward. At that juncture is when we do offer outpatient and aftercare, that the clients, for the next 6 months, they come to the center and interact with their counselors free of charge. We don't even charge that. That is just for continuous care. There's also something we call AA or NA. These are support group meetings. They are all over, even Nairobi, there are so many. These are groups that we go sit down as recovering addicts and we share our strengths. We share hope. So, yeah, there is support after one is discharged. Yes.
Thank you so much, Njuguna, for that sharing. And this is real, and it is what many of us could be battling with. My question is, there is this notion that you cannot force somebody to go to a rehab, or we are faced with that, and when somebody is there, they are seeing you as the client, not them. So you maybe had an experience where maybe as a family you would wish to bring your client or to take your client to a rehab, but he or she has not maybe reached that very low, the lowest level that he feels now I need this help. Can those have you had experience of such people who have maybe benefited? They have been brought by the family, but out of it they have benefited, or must we wait until the person really feels, now I need it?
Thank you so much for the presentation. This is real and it has happened. I have a question about enabling the person who is addicted with either drugs or with alcohol. When you enable them, you give them, are you giving them the money, the food, like you deny them the money which they need? They may be needing money for maybe their food, or maybe they need to buy something. So I have a question: what should you do with enabling this person who is addicted?
Thank you for this wonderful program. As a Seventh-day Adventist, when we preach to people, we usually tell them to stop drinking. One time when we had a campaign at Bondo, we preached to people, and the one man who was alcoholic accepted to stop, and he was baptized. After 3 days when I had come to Nairobi, the wife called me and said, he was calling me pastor. Pastor, we went to the market, and when we were doing our shopping, the man started trembling and he fell down. What should I do? And I ran to the doctors, and they were telling me, you know, he couldn't have stopped immediately. Maybe he could have done it for a while. And you know, as a Seventh-day Adventist, you cannot baptize somebody who has not stopped. You just tell that person to stop. Is there something which can be done to such a person who is so much alcoholic, but who has been told to stop, and now being that the system now maybe is alcoholic, is not able to stop? What are we supposed to do? Maybe it can be answered from here or from your side. Thank you.
So let me start with the last question. What we do in cases for somebody who wants to stop, like the first week, the patient, if I may use the word patient, the patient is taken through medically assisted detoxification. So they're put through detoxification to help them stabilize, and it gets rid of the severe withdrawals and the cravings. The other question was about involuntary admissions. There is what is known as the Mental Health Act, and there's a provision for involuntary admissions into mental centers, even rehabilitation centers. So, and from my experience, I do find that involuntary cases even have a higher success rate than the voluntary. Why that is so is the ones who check themselves in, they stay like for a week and they tell me, I want to leave. I brought Siniliji letter. See, I signed myself in so I can walk out. And they usually walk out. They terminate at any point. But for the involuntary, atakaa hapo mpaka apone. They are mandated. And if you think about it, these are people who have used drugs. Like, I had smoked marijuana for quite a long time and taken alcohol. Immediately, I take one tot of alcohol or one puff of marijuana. You wouldn't expect me and you to reason, to think the same. For me, my thinking will have been distorted. My judgment, it's out of this world. So for me, and that's why we continue making wrong decisions, because the brain has been impaired. So for me to make a right decision, I will go to the grave before I actually make one. So sometimes families need to make that decision for them. Because how easy, it's already been distorted. So instead of watching them go down the drain, you have to make that decision. Tumekuleta sasa. So it's usually resistance. You come there, first 1 month, no visitation. Because inakuanga ni kama vita. I want to leave, walinileta huku, nani aliwaambia nataka kukuja huku, and that's why we have studied how to interact with them. We take them through therapy. And once they go through even the detoxification, the clarity of mind comes. And once that clarity of mind comes, they realize why they are there. So sometimes as a family, and I encourage families to sit down, have a family intervention, put your foot down. Na mseme as a family, this is a decision by the family. By the family. The last question is about enabling. Now, enabling, as I said, if I can simplify that, me being an addict, I'm addicted to alcohol. Are we together there? I'm addicted to alcohol. An enabler is addicted to the addict. And enablers could be more sick than the addict. An enabler will pour all their resources to the addict. Nikipiga simu and I call my mom nimwambie I'm in a police station, hata hiyo kazi ikae, she will rush to me. An enabler will not sleep mpaka addict aingie nyumbani. She will be there, anauliza ako wapi sasa, atafika saa ngapi. Then he comes, enters the house. The enabler will rush to the door, akimsikia, wewe ulikuwa wapi? Unajua sijalala juu yako nini? At the same time, hugs the addict. She's angry and she's happy. Look at that sickness. Then ashike addict, ampeleke, hata nilikuwa nimekuwekea chakula hapa, eat. Amewekewa kuku. And if you look carefully, anawekeangwa ile kuku mzuri. Si kama wengine washalala. Amewekewa yake separate. Akule, amkalishe hapo akule. Alafu amshike ampandishe stairs. Amweke kwa kitanda na amfunikie. The life of the enabler revolves around the addict. And that's now what we or an enabler is supposed to do is now where we teach about boundaries. There has to be boundaries. Because I've seen an enabler anaosha hata nguo za the son. And the son is 40 years old. Anamuoshea, amemtafutia bibi, yeye ndiye anafanyanga shopping ya hiyo nyumba, yeye ndiye analipia watoto shule. Bibi akikosea, if that guy comes to the mom aseme na bibi ananikosea, mama anaenda, mbona unamkasirisha? That is how deep enabling can be. So there has to be boundaries. They need to realize that there is a point at which their responsibility ends. And they need to start living their life. Sometimes the addict may never recover as long as the enabling continues. They will never. So it has to stop. And sometimes the bitter truth inakuanga saa zingine even the enabler akikufa ndio huyu atapona. Because they never stop enabling. So it needs therapy also. It's not just the addict who needs therapy. The enabler needs therapy the most. Thank you.
God is good. How many of you here would agree with this? Everybody makes mistakes. A mistake is all right. Would anybody here agree with that? Yes? Well, where in the Bible we told that God is perfect and He expects us to be perfect? Is that expectation too high, or it's something that we can work on?
Perfect like Him. We are supposed to be Christ-like, and it's perfect, so we can attain it because we are supposed to be like Him. So it's not too high.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Because of time, we'll just give Elder Nyakundi time. He's part of the health team, just to make the final comment and pray for us. Thank you so much for your participation.
Good afternoon and happy Sabbath. We just want to thank the Health Ministries Department for putting up a fantastic program throughout the month. And just a few comments to do with the medications. One is that there can be addiction to painkillers. And a lot of our old people are addicted to painkillers. In fact, there is what we call analgesic headaches. So you are taking the painkillers to take the headache away, but then the painkiller brings the headache. So you stop your Brufen or Panadol, and the headache starts again. You think the headache is the Panadol is the one taking away the headache, but actually is the one continuing the process of the headaches. And sometimes you have to be removed away from the addiction of the painkiller so that your headaches can recover. Just one point. Number two, it's an issue about drug interactions. I'm sure a lot of drugs, we don't all understand the drug interactions, but the fact that one drug which you may be prescribed may interact with another one, either positively or negatively. So if you are taking a drug maybe to thin your blood, you may be taking another drug which you have been prescribed by another doctor, which will probably be doing the same thing. Then you are going home to take dawa, ginger, which also thins the blood. So before you know it, your blood is so thin, and you may end up starting to bleed and having maybe complications as a result of the drug interactions. Number three, when you come to the hospital, we ask, what have you been taking? People start describing them by colors and by I don't know what and what. But so it's nice when you have when you have been given medicines, just take a photo of the medicines you have been given. And when you go to the hospital, you can just produce your, those, the photos of the medicines you have been taking, so that the doctor can see what you have been on, rather than you trying to describe colors and things like that. So very easy. So whenever you have been given a medication, take a photo of that medicine and keep it in store for next time use. Thank you very much. I think with those comments, I just want to thank you for your patience, and I pray that you may be in good health and that you may prosper even as your soul prospereth. Let's pray. Let's stand up and pray. Oh, sorry. Could be standing. There's an announcement to make, please.
I know we are on our feet, but it's okay. It's a good change in posture. I really want to thank all the medics, including our special guest, for this wonderful day that we've had. We do have a visitation that we want to do, even if it's a bit late. So kindly, after prayer, we want to visit with the family of Elder Giles Orina, who lost their sister. we go do a few minutes prayers at Mountain View. We will provide direction. I think Elder is even a neighbor, and a lot of us have been to that place. So immediately we finish, let's rush there and do prayers with them. God bless you so much and give you a good week ahead. Karibu Elder.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your goodness to us. Thank you for the gift of health, and thank you for reminding us that indeed you have made us wonderfully and fearfully. And I thank the speakers who have been with us in the morning and this afternoon. I pray that you may bless the speakers of this afternoon, that you may prosper their ways, that indeed, especially brother who has an institution which offers hope and care for those who have been affected and afflicted by the menace of drug addiction. I pray that you may grant him knowledge and wisdom, even those who are working in that institution, and all those who would walk through that institution, that they may find hope and find also a Savior, Jesus Christ. I thank for all the families who are here, who have attended, that you may meet each one of us at our points of need, and as we now separate one from another, watch between us and grant us safe conduct through the week till next week when we'll meet again, and we'll be mindful to thank you. We pray this, trusting that you have heard us, and many unsaid requests that you will attend to each one of us according to our needs is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.